In this video we're going to be talking about creativity and how creativity affects people throughout their life, and also how it can affect you as well. We're going to start off by talking about a Dr. Seuss quote, and that quote is on the screen right now. So, fantasy is a necessary ingredient in living. It's a way of looking at life through the wrong end of the telescope. So think about that for a minute. Pick apart that, if you will. Dissect each individual part. I mean, fantasy is a necessary ingredient in living. Okay, I mean, some people live their lives quite logical and straight to the point, very black and white, whereas other people have a bit more colour, if you like, in their life, and a bit more sort of creativity, or a bit more artistry, or they like different things, or they can take something and turn it into a story, or dramatise something. And by doing that, it is a way of looking at life through the wrong end of the telescope, because the wrong end of the telescope is distorted. It's slightly different. It's a different way of looking at things. So when we think about creativity, what do we mean by creativity? Okay, so this is the definition. This is a dictionary definition of what creativity is. It's the use of imagination or original ideas to create something. Inventiveness, if you will. Okay, but how do we get to that point? What do we do to get to this thing of inventiveness? How do we become creative? Are we born creative or not? I mean, and that's some of the questions that we're going to ask. I'm going to start off by watching this short video of creativity needing a bigger definition. Okay.
When you hear the word creative, you might think of a painter, or a playwright, or an author, or a photographer, or a filmmaker, or a chef. In other words, you might think of people who make things. I think it's what we mean when we use a label like creative type. But there's no such thing as creative type. We are all creative, every one of us. We just need a bigger definition of creativity. Yes, creativity involves making things, but it can also mean mashing up ideas in innovative ways. It can mean thinking differently about data and finding unique solutions to practical problems. It can mean hacking systems and tweaking things in unusual ways. It can mean exploring ideas and navigating information until you become an expert curator. It can mean designing systems that empower the creative work of others. It can mean creating change in the world by speaking truth and leading movements and interacting with people. See, each of these creative approaches shape our world in profound ways. And the more we see the creativity all around us, the more we are able to appreciate the creativity inside ourselves.
Okay, so is creative thinking learned, or does it just come natural to some people? Because we're all born creative, and then really we're taught to be uncreative as we grow older. You know, it's just about when you were a kid in school, and you think about how when you were doing art classes, you were told to reach for the stars. You were encouraged to play or to dress up and all that sort of stuff. And then when you get older, you're told to get real and grow up, or take a straight narrow path and pay your bills and get a mortgage and all that sort of stuff. So pursuing our creative potential tends to come to a halt when we grow up. Creative individuals don't always have the most supportive environment in the workplace, because they might be said to have unusual thoughts or lack the know-how for real business innovation, which isn't true. Research proves that non-creative behaviour is learnt over time. According to George Land's, I can't get my words mixed up, George Land's creativity test, young children are creative geniuses and become less creative as they age. His study looked at about 1,600 5-year-olds and tested to see how creative they were. 98% were deemed creative geniuses, thinking in similar ways to the likes of Picasso, Mozart, Einstein, and other creative personalities. He tested them again at age 10, and that number dropped to by 30%. By 15 years old, it dropped another 12%. And he gave the same test to something like 250,000 adults and found that only 2% were creative geniuses. So the good news with that is that if you consider yourself uncreative as an adult, you can reteach yourself to have a whole new mindset. You've just got to think and change the way you look at the world. Turn the telescope round and look at it from the other way. Start a new hobby. Focus on something that you're going to learn, and develop those skills further. Start thinking outside the box a little bit. Pick up objects and look at how they work, and then think, well, actually, how would they work differently? Take, for example, there's quite a lot of art projects around at the moment where people are using everyday objects, casting a shadow onto a piece of paper, and then turning those shadows into creatures or living things. Taking an object and turning it into taking an inanimate object and turning it into a living object. There's so many different ways that you can actually develop your abilities, and certainly once you've found a subject that you're really interested in, whether that's applied art, fine art, game art, animation, film photography, whatever it is, become an expert in it. Find out everything you can about that subject. Research and develop those skills over time. Because it's been shown that creativity in certain areas emerge after much practice. And practice makes perfect. Okay? There's another Dr. Seuss quotes. It's like, think right, think left, think right, think up, think down. Think of all the things you can think if you only try. And it's about having an open mindset as well, and actually going out and trying something new. Okay, remain curious about the world. Okay, it's easy to shake off mistakes. In fact, there are no mistakes. You've just learned how not to do something. Okay, so going back to that quote, fantasy is a necessary ingredient in living. It's a way of looking at life through the wrong end of the telescope. We wouldn't be artists or designers or animators or whatever if we didn't have that little bit of fantasy in us already and wanting to see the world in a different way. Okay? And on that, well, I'll leave it there for you to think about your creative practice and how you can develop your creativity and how you can practice and push those boundaries. Experimentation, whatever it is you're going to be looking at. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching this video. And hopefully it's a little bit of food for thought. Thank you.